Channel 13 Weekend News starts now.
Take a look at what happened.
Some terrifying moments. Several shots fired at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania today. Secret Service agents rushing the former president off stage. A Trump spokesperson saying he is safe, but ABC News confirming tonight at least one bystander is dead and 2 others are critically injured. Also just into the newsroom, we learned the identity of the gunman. According to ABC News, the FBI identified him as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks from Pennsylvania. Thanks for staying up with us on Channel 13, live at 11. I'm Jae-Won Jung. Law enforcement told ABC News the gunman fired as many as 8 rounds from an AR-style rifle while perched on a rooftop adjacent to the venue. Crooks was also killed by Secret Service agents. Scripps News reporter Alex Miller has the story.
Take a look at what happened.
A frightening incident at a Trump rally on Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. Donald Trump was speaking when suddenly shots rang out. The former president appeared to grab his right ear and duck below the podium. Some members of Secret Service jumped on top of him while others rushed to the stage from both sides. The footage shows members of the Secret Service trying to assess his injuries. As he stands up, Trump appears to have blood on his face, but gives a fist pump. He's then whisked off the stage and into a nearby SUV. A post on Trump's Truth Social account afterwards says, in part, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening." The Butler County District Attorney says the shooter was not attending the rally and that the shooter and at least one rally attendee are dead. The incident is being investigated as an assassination attempt of the former president, according to law enforcement officials. President Biden addressed the nation shortly after the incident, condemning the violence.
Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
Take a look at what happened.
Here's another look at the video from the rally. Trump began his speech at around 6 p.m. Eastern time, but shortly after there were several loud bangs as Secret Service agents rushed towards Trump. You can see there's blood on his face. The agents formed a human shield around him as he was seen waving his fist in the air. President Trump released a statement that reads, "I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. We now know who the gunman is." A White House official also confirming President Joe Biden and Trump spoke after the assassination attempt, according to the FBI. President Biden also holding a short press conference after. Take a listen.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
The Trump campaign also released a statement of their own, which reads, quote, "President Trump thanks law enforcement and first responders for their quick action during this heinous act. He is fine and is being checked out at a local medical facility. More details will follow." Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, said in a statement on X that he had been briefed on the situation and Pennsylvania State Police were on hand at the rally site. He said, quote, "Violence targeted at any political party or political leader is absolutely simply unacceptable. It has no place in Pennsylvania or the United States. Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo also releasing a statement which reads in part, quote, "Donna and I thank God that former President Trump is safe and unharmed after being shot at during a rally in Pennsylvania. We are waiting for more information from the Secret Service. In the meantime, we are praying for calm and civility around the country. The FBI has not confirmed he has not been shot. These are the exact statements we are getting from officials." The FBI did confirm, however, the shooting was an assassination attempt. The agency is leading the investigation.
So we do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was.
New York police are increasing their presence around Trump Tower and other sensitive locations in the city. This comes after former President Trump was injured during the rally today in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump Tower is already under the watch of NYPD, even though Trump rarely stays at his former residence. The Fifth Avenue skyscraper is also a gathering place for supporters and opponents of Trump. Officers will also increase security at 40 Wall Street, Foley Square, and City Hall. And joining me now is Ryan Jenkins from WTMJ, our sister station in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is, of course, where the Republican National Convention will begin on Monday. The Trump campaign did confirm the former president will be there despite the shooting at a rally in Pennsylvania today. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here. I know there are a lot of questions, but first, has anyone from the RNC leadership said anything about the convention on Monday?
So far, all that we've heard from RNC leadership after that shooting today is that the former president still plans to be here and that the convention is set to go on as scheduled. And we're working to learn more about what that could mean in terms of security and some of the protest zones that have been set up. That's been a huge topic here in Milwaukee leading up to this event. And of course, now those questions are questions that we are doubling down on as we work to learn more about how today's shooting could impact this event moving forward.
Yeah, that sort of leads into my next question, which is if we know if there's going to be any heightened security at the RNC given the events that happened today.
Of course, I mean, the RNC is already a highly secured event. There have been plans for security zones, parking restrictions, vehicle checkpoints, fences, barricades, all in place for several days now. And those security zones are expected to take effect in the coming days as well. What I can tell you is we've also seen a lot of attention from local law enforcement and from law enforcement from across the country. People here with drones, in helicopters, with armored vehicles. That is becoming a more and more common sight around Milwaukee leading up to the RNC. And we are anticipating that we could see even more security following today's events. But again, we're still waiting on the specifics to learn how the Secret Service and other law enforcement agencies will respond following what happened with the former president today in Pennsylvania.
And we know the city of Milwaukee expects about 50,000 people to be in attendance on Monday. Do we have an idea of whether what happened at the rally today will impact attendance one way or another?
You know, I think it is too soon to say, but what I can tell you is that we have been at the airport. We have been inside that security zone where, you know, Pfizer Forum is, the host site for the RNC here in Milwaukee. And what I can tell you is that the delegates who are already here visiting the city are saying, some of them are saying that they are feeling, you know, energized in a sense, that they think that today's events could actually help the former president win this election. Others are saying they are not fearing for their own safety at all because they believe they'll be in one of the most secure, safest zones in the country, given the attention from Secret Service and law enforcement on this major event here in Milwaukee. So far, it sounds like things will go on as planned, and delegates are coming here. They're on a mission to nominate the former president as their candidate.
We'll just have to see what happens. Ryan Jenkins from WTMJ in Milwaukee, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.